I also would like to be able to share my story with the world and what they did to me, instead of it being a hush-hush secret to benefit all of them.
That voice, that desperation, that is a woman who spent 13 years being silenced.
I'm really worried. I'm absolutely, as a father, terrified that one day I might wake up and my sons are gonna have to deal with the unimaginable.
He warned us. 5 months before the arrest, he said something bad was coming, and it did.
They tried to medicate me. I was exhausted. They wrongly diagnosed me. And they when I asked them, how much lithium did you want to put me on exactly? It took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount, right? And I refused to take this, right? You understand that if I had taken the medication, I would not be here, and it would have been, he was deeply troubled. We miss him. We love his music, though.
Now connect that to Britney, because she didn't refuse, she couldn't, and the people who made sure she couldn't, they had names, they had businesses, and some of those businesses, according to court documents, ran directly through one of the most famous families in America. But here is what nobody was connecting until now. Joe Rogan has built his entire platform on asking the questions that make powerful people uncomfortable. He doesn't care about PR. He doesn't care about brand deals. He sat across from scientists, soldiers, comedians, and conspiracy theorists, and every single time, the through line is the same. Who is protecting who and why? So when Rogan started pulling on the thread connected to Britney Spears, not the pop star, not the tabloid headline, but the system that swallowed her whole for 13 years, people paid attention. Because here's the thing about Joe Rogan. When something genuinely disturbs him, not theatrically, not for content, you hear it in his voice. The pace slows, the jokes stop, and what comes out is something closer to disbelief.
Look at what they did. Look at what they did to Britney. When she went in, she was tired, she was exhausted, she was in a bad way. But 10 years of that medication wrecked her brain. You can see it now. You can see
10 years of lithium against her will inside a system that was legally constructed to keep her compliant. And the people who built that system, they didn't disappear when it ended. They went to birthday parties. But before we get there, let's go back to the beginning. Because to understand what happened to Britney Spears, you have to understand how it was built. February 2008. Britney Spears is 26 years old. She'd had 2 psychiatric holds in the span of a few weeks. The media was in full feeding frenzy mode. Helicopters over her house, cameras outside the hospital, and in the middle of all of that chaos, her father, Jamie Spears, walked into a California court and got a judge to hand him legal control over his daughter's entire life. Her money, her career, her medical decisions, her ability to drive a car, who she could see, what she could eat, everything.
I want to be able to be heard on what they did to me. By making me keep this in for so long is not good for my heart. I've been so angry and I cry every day.
That is not a woman who needed to be controlled. That is a woman who was being silenced and knew it. Now, in her 2023 memoir, The Woman in Me, Britney described what living inside the conservatorship actually looked like. She wrote that she was locked in rooms, that she couldn't take a bath in private, that she was put on lithium, the same medication, by the way, that drove her grandmother to suicide at 31, without her full consent. Heavy doses, consistent, for over a decade. Here's what sustained high-dose lithium actually does to a human brain over that length of time. And this is not a conspiracy theory, and this is documented medical fact. It affects memory, it affects coordination, it affects emotional regulation, it affects cognitive function, and the damage after that many years can be permanent. So the next time someone mocks the way Britney moves now, the way she talks, the way she comes across in her videos, I need them to sit with that for a second, because she was chemically altered against her will for over a decade, and the people who allowed that, who signed off on it, who profited from it, some of them are still out here being celebrated. When the Free Britney movement picked up real momentum in 2021, fans started digging, and 2 names kept surfacing. The first, Lou Taylor. The second, the Kardashians. And what investigators found wasn't just social media speculation. It was in the actual court filings. Lou Taylor runs a Hollywood management company called TriStar. And according to court documents from 2020 and 2021, actual filed documents, Taylor served as the legal agent of service for multiple Kardashian-Jenner business entities, meaning if any of those companies got hit with a lawsuit, the papers went directly to her. We're talking about Kim's KKW Fragrance, Kylie's King Kylie LLC, Kris's Family Foundation, Kendall's 818 Tequila, even Travis Scott's Cactus Jack. All of them running through the same woman who, according to Britney's supporters and multiple investigators, was centrally involved in constructing the conservatorship in the first place. And here's where it gets darker. According to reporting from Britney's former mother, as cited in multiple investigative accounts, Lou Taylor and Jamie Spears were allegedly discussing the conservatorship as a financial solution even while Britney was still in the middle of her breakdown. Jamie reportedly owed Lou Taylor money, significant money, and the conservatorship, once locked in, would generate more than enough to settle that debt, with millions left over to share. That is the alleged architecture of what happened. A daughter's breakdown, a father's debt, a manager with connections, and a legal mechanism that nobody thought would last 13 years.
You start to think, well, okay, who gained from her dying?
That question, right there, that is the question Joe Rogan would ask. That's the question any rational person asks when the money trail becomes this clear. Now, Lou Taylor's firm also represented Diddy. We'll come back to that. But first, the Kardashian connection goes deeper than shared management paperwork. According to investigators who have spent years tracking the financial flows connected to Britney's conservatorship, the number most people quote is $200 million. That's the figure that gets thrown around. But the researchers who've gone deepest into the court documents and financial records put the real figure significantly higher. Some estimates reach $600 million, moved through Tristar, through various business entities, over the course of 13 years. Now, none of that has been proven in a court of law, but here is what is documented. Kylie Jenner's cosmetics company experienced a staggering rise in value during the same period Britney was locked in. And in 2020, and when Forbes went back and actually examined the books, they found something remarkable. The numbers didn't add up. Forbes investigated. They reviewed the documents. They sat with the family's accountants. And what they concluded and published was that Kylie Jenner's wealth had been significantly inflated, that the tax returns provided to them appeared to have been forged, that Kylie's true net worth, still extraordinary by any measure, was nowhere near the billion-dollar figure the family had been selling to the world. The magazine compared what the Jenners did to the kind of financial maneuvering Donald Trump used to look richer than he was. Kylie responded. She called it inaccurate, but the question that investigation opened was larger than the numbers themselves. If they were willing to fabricate their wealth, what else were they willing to fabricate? And then there's the church, a church that every family member was required to financially support. Monthly membership fees, 10% of earnings on top. And critics have long argued that the structure functions less like a place of worship and more like a financial instrument, one that could be used to move money quietly, to write off payments as charitable giving, to shield funds from the kind of scrutiny that a standard business transaction would attract. And, according to reporting cited in multiple investigations, Diddy was also a client of the same management firm, and the church was allegedly being used as a channel to accept payments connected to him that were then quietly distributed elsewhere. They used a church. Now here is where this story connects to the biggest scandal of the decade. In early 2026, new batches of Epstein files were released, and the viral claim that exploded across social media was that Britney Spears was mentioned 115 times in those documents. That went everywhere, and fact checkers, including IB Times UK and Factually.co, went in, reviewed the released files, and found no verified criminal connection to Britney in those specific claims. But here's what the fact checkers did not debunk. In the documents, there are emails between Jeffrey Epstein and a man named Mark Tremo. Tremo worked at UCLA Geffen Medical School, specializing in neurology. In those emails, they discuss getting funding for what the files describe as a project relating to Britney Spears. Her child custody situation comes up in the same exchange. And here's the detail that makes it impossible to dismiss. While those emails were being written, Britney was being held at the UCLA Resnick Psychiatric Hospital, the same university system where Tremo worked. Multiple witnesses confirmed she was kept there against her will.
Spears is mentioned in the Epstein files, but I need your help to understand the context of this email.
There's also a reference in those emails to a neonatal ICU project connected to her name. Nobody has been able to fully explain what that means in the context of a woman who had already had both her children and was being held in a psychiatric ward. And then there is TMZ. Epstein reportedly stated on record that Harvey Levin, the CEO of TMZ, was, in his words, a good friend of mine. Fast forward to 2026. The DUI arrest happens. And who leads the media charge? Who gets the exes and family members to do interviews? Who pushes the narrative that she is spiraling again? TMZ.
Today we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images.
3.5 million pages released. Sounds like transparency. Except Congressman Ro Khanna went on record to state that the DOJ itself identified over 6 million potentially responsive documents. 6 million. They released half. Nobody is explaining where the other 2.5 million pages are. And that silence, that specific, deliberate silence, is loud. November 8th, 2025, Kris Jenner's birthday party, held at Jeff Bezos' Beverly Hills estate. The cost of the event alone was estimated at $6.5 million. And the guest list was a masterclass in connected power. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle. The global elite assembled under one roof. And one other guest, Lou Taylor. The same Lou Taylor whose name appears in Britney's conservatorship documents. The same Lou Taylor whose firm represented Diddy. The same Lou Taylor who, according to multiple investigative accounts, was the architect of the legal structure that held Britney Spears captive for 13 years. The Kardashians had spent months publicly supporting the Free Britney movement, posting about it, talking about it, and privately, they were celebrating with the woman people were calling the engineer of Britney's cage. Make that make sense.
I'm told I'm not allowed to expose the people who did this to me. For my sanity, I need you to the judge to approve me, do an interview where I can be heard on what they did to me. And actually, I have the right to use my voice and take up for myself. My attorney says I can't, it's not good. I can't let the public know anything they did to me, and by not saying anything is saying it's okay.
She knew. She always knew. And she was being legally prevented from saying it. March 5th, 2026. California Highway Patrol spots a 2026 BMW convertible weaving on the road in Ventura County. They pull her over. Field sobriety tests. She fails. Blood drawn. Car impounded. Arrested on suspicion of DUI, suspected combination of alcohol and drugs. She was released the morning of March 5th. Court date set for May 4th, 2026 in Ventura County Superior Court. Here is the detail the headlines buried. This arrest happened days after Britney was granted a restraining order against a stalker who had been targeting her since 2013. Over a decade of being hunted. The media response to her DUI, helicopters over her house, exes running to CNN, doctors who have never treated her diagnosing her on camera. A close friend told News Nation in March 2026 that Britney initially refused to go into treatment, and what they said next explains everything. She has very big trust issues. She will not sign anything anymore because of the last conservatorship. Think about what that means. The system that was supposed to help her the first time destroyed her. So now when people she loves ask her to voluntarily sign herself into a facility, of course there is resistance. Of course there is terror. She knows what signing away her rights looks like from the inside.
This morning, Britney Spears is in rehab. A rep for the star confirming to ABC News she has voluntarily checked herself into a treatment facility.
She went in, and that took courage. But the question that Joe Rogan, and frankly anyone paying attention, is asking right now is not whether Britney made the right choice going into rehab. The question is, why was she in this position again? And who benefits if she ends up back under a conservatorship? Because a Page 6 legal expert said in March 2026 that one DUI is not enough to reinstate one. But if the pattern continues, more incidents, more hospitalizations, more erratic public behavior, her family absolutely could petition the court. And the original conservatorship started after just 2 psychiatric holds within weeks of each other. 2. That pattern is starting to look familiar. Here is where everything stands as of right now. 2.5 million pages of Epstein files are still being withheld from the public. Attorney General Pam Bondi was formally subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee. Democrats walked out of her voluntary testimony because she wouldn't commit to anything meaningful. Lawrence Summers resigned from Harvard when his Epstein connection surfaced. Goldman Sachs' top legal officer, who apparently called Epstein Uncle Jeffrey and appeared in his texts 10,000 times, resigned. Peter Adia, the health podcaster, resigned from CBS News after appearing in the files 1,700 times. Bill Clinton became the first former U.S. president in American history required to testify before Congress about his contact with Epstein. The walls are moving, slowly at Stowawake, but they are moving. And somewhere inside all of this, Britney Spears checked herself into a treatment facility. A woman who spent 13 years being medicated, controlled, and silenced. A woman whose finances allegedly ran through the same management firm that served one of the most powerful celebrity families in the world. A woman who appears in actual Epstein documents connected to emails between a UCLA neurologist and Jeffrey Epstein himself.
Basically, all I want to do is crawl in a hole and stay there for the rest of my life. You tell me what I should do. Tell me.
That is not a pop star having a breakdown. That is a human being who has been through something most of us cannot comprehend and is still standing. Whether Joe Rogan goes fully public with whatever he's been looking into, whether the next Epstein file release contains the names nobody's been willing to say yet, whether April 14th changes anything, we don't know yet. But we know this. The Lou Taylor connection to both Britney and the Kardashians is in the court documents. The Epstein emails connecting UCLA to Britney are in the files. The Forbes fraud investigation is on record, and the woman who allegedly built Britney's cage was a guest at Kris Jenner's $6.5 million birthday party, while the Kardashians were posting free Britney on their Instagram pages. Some questions answer themselves. You just have to be willing to look. Everything you're thinking in the comments. I read every single one, and if you want us to go deeper on the Lou Taylor and Kardashian money trail, the full financial breakdown, just comment money trail below, and we'll build that as its own dedicated episode. Stay locked in.